Thanks for bringing that up. Otherwise, it's always a thing that you forget to start. So yeah, so hi everyone. As Amit introduced me, I'm just another person who's learning Salesforce Marketing Cloud along with everybody else, and just try to share whatever we have learned. So that being said, today's session is about AmpScript, and I can already see 50 people, around 50 people joining in. So that's a good, healthy number for any community event. Okay, so before starting and the event, I wanted to understand what is the cohorts actually demographics in terms of the learnability, the experience on Salesforce Marketing Cloud or AmpScript. So can you use your chat options and let me know if you have 0 to 1 year experience, type 1. If you have 2 to 3 years experience, type 2, and 3 years and beyond within Marketing Cloud, type 3. So can I get 1, 2, or 3 depending on 0 or 1 year experience, 2 middle, and 3 good enough experience? Can I get that in the chat so that at least I can get to understand what is the demographic, where are the people coming from? Guys, I'm waiting.
There are a lot chat in the
Pankaj
in the chat. Pankaj, I see there are a lot of people
for some reason, okay.
There are like people are putting 1,
Okay,
1.5,
for some reason, then in
3.
that case, just a minute, because I'm not able to see those chat messages. Okay, it's just a chat option, isn't it, where I need to see, because I'm unable to see the people reacting, which is very important for me in the session. Am I missing anything, Amit?
I don't think so. You are already co-host, so you have all those abilities, but still let me make you host. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, you're host now. Let's see if you have the ability to see the chat.
Okay, so if I can click.
I think we lost you, Pankaj.
I'm back.
Yep.
Okay, still for some reason I'm unable to see the chat. So Amit, help me out over here. Okay, so yeah, so
So
I'm presuming Mhm.
majority of people has given number 1, so we can say okay. Like
Oh,
number 1 to 1.5 are the numbers that I have seen in the chat window. So we can keep okay. Everyone is beginner, and then we can start from there.
sure. Okay, so helping me out, and absolutely again to be presenting and sharing my knowledge. So since the cohort basically belongs to the category of people who have minimum or very less experience in marketing cloud, and that's the agenda for today as well, wherein teach AmpScript 101, or the basics of the basic things around AmpScript, what it is used for, and what are some basic functions that will be used, that are used or are the backbone of AmpScript. So that's the basic agenda, and probably 1 or 2 sample cases, if time permits, we can talk about it. And in the meantime, I'm unable to see the chat for some technical reasons. Please use the chat window to the maximum possibility, because we have people over here, and the idea of the community is to actually be self-sufficient. So post your questions, and we'll see if we can pick those questions. If somebody else like Shibu, Amit are here, they will respond to those questions. So buzz that chat window with your questions, answers, whatever you can, help out the community over here. So I would request you to do that. Okay, so now what is the agenda for?
I think we lost Pankaj. He might be having some.
Yeah, yes, Amit.
Yeah, I think your voice is breaking, Pankaj. Do you have some other internet that you can switch to?
Yeah, just a minute. So I'm switching on to a different network. Just give me a moment.
Sure.
Is it fine now, Amit?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so let me know. I'm facing some trouble. It seems some connection thing work is going on. So let me know if there is either disruption. So pause me and I'll repeat my stuff. Okay. So quickly, without wasting any moment, what is the different programmatic languages in SFMC? We'll cover that. What is the syntax of AmpScript? What are some of the use cases of AmpScript? We'll be certainly getting onto examples of AmpScript using a newly created tool by one of our community trailblazers. So that's a good gift for the community, that nobody needs to now have access to the org. They can actually go onto that tool, which is called MC Snippets, and actually start learning AmpScript and SSJS over there. And pretty soon we'll be having some SQL stuff added to that as well. So no need for Marketing Cloud org to learn AmpScript as well as your SSJS. You can do it right away. It's a free tool, again, by the community for the community. So we'll use this tool instead of Marketing Cloud org. Okay. So now this is the agenda. So first of all, what is AmpScript and why it is used for? That's very important to understand why it is used for. So I'm presuming everybody would have over here used services like Swiggy, Zomato, Uber, Ola. They keep on sending you emails, some of them commercial, some of them transactionals. Commercial means if they want to do a new product launch, if they want to launch a new recipe, you keep on getting emails from them. That emails have got content which is highly personalized for you. When I say personalized, it can be as simple as your name, Pankaj, that is the name. That is personalization, I call it. And it could be as simple as saying that you have ordered these many dishes in the last month, for example. So that content actually comes with the help of personalization. That can be done with the help of AmpScript. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example. So this is a Grammarly app that has sent me an email, and that email talks to me in terms of, I'm presuming Grammarly, if you are not aware of, Grammarly is an app which tracks, does spell corrections for you while you write on the internet. So basically spell check on a big scale. So it has sent me an email which talks to me about a lot of personalization stuff. So for example, it tells me that what I have been doing for last 136 weeks. See, my productivity was more than 89% of the Grammarly users. It has checked these many words for me. This is called personalization, and this can be achieved with the help of AmpScript. It might be other languages might be used, but this could be certainly done with the AmpScript as well. So here, this is the example that I wanted to showcase, wherein AmpScript is used for personalization, and this is a lot of personalization data. In fact, Grammarly, for your understanding, uses Salesforce Marketing Cloud to send the email. So this email, which you can see, has been sent to me real time. This is sent by Marketing Cloud. Okay, so this is the personalization. This is a use case, one of the use case that we said for AmpScript, where they are using these data, targeted data, for personalization, so that it can send me a very, very curated email talking about my progress. In my case, see, for example, I have used these many unique words, okay, as a part of my writing. So this is the personalization stuff, and this is what AmpScript does for you. Okay, this is one of the major use case for AmpScript, which helps you in personalization. Again, personalization, if you are hearing this word for the first time, personalization basically means to personalize that email communication. I'm right now talking only about email. It can be applied to SMS and landing pages as well, but primarily email, because it is a mass communication channel. Everybody understands it. So for the simplicity, I'm doing it. So vocabulary, personalization could be as simple as name, or it could be this much, or it could be like, for example, you get an email from Amazon after your purchase, which talks about your name of the product, invoice detail, GST detail, etc., etc. It could be that as well. Okay, so all your invoice details could be fetched with the help of AmpScript as well. So again, an example of personalization in the email if required. So that is one of the use cases of script. Now coming back to our PPT. So AmpScript is basically a proprietary scripting language. It's a proprietary. When I say proprietary, it means it is used within Marketing Cloud only. Okay, so that's the meaning of proprietary scripting language, and it can be used for various channels. If you remember, I spoke about emails. It can be used on landing pages. It can be used in SMSs and push messages that you get on your mobile if you are in a certain location, or like Uber sends you or Ola sends you, keeps on sending you messages on app. It can be used there as well. So these are the different channels where this proprietary scripting language can be used. And as I said, it can span across simple personalization where it's dear Pankaj name, or it could be shifting a lot of data as well. So you can do a lot of activities with AmpScript. It could include moving the data from one place to other, from one sales cloud, from here to sales cloud as well. So this could be used or done via AmpScript as well. But just to give an example, and it's a good general purpose language where it can be in some, depending on the use case, it could be one of the go-to languages in some of the cases. Okay, so now moving on. So that was this thing. Then again, what could be the different use cases? I covered a couple of them, wherein we spoke about it could be personalization, name, email, date of birth. Like as simple as that, if you're getting an anniversary email, they would be remembering your date of birth. So it could be one of the use cases where they are populating your date of birth on that particular email. So that could be a use case for personalization. Again, it could be used for creating very dynamic emails under a lot of logics. We will see some of those use cases in the end of the presentations with certain categories of the AmpScript function. And of course, some real-time system related information can also be populated, and impressions tracking if they want. Okay, so before getting into syntax of AmpScript, there is something that I want to quickly touch base upon is personalization strings. So personalization strings are again something that is used within Marketing Cloud. You might hear words like merge field as well, and other stuff. But personalization string is, again, it's different from AmpScript, but in some cases it does the same function. Okay, so personalization string could be as simple as inserting subscriber attributes like name, information, etc., other details into that particular email. So personalization strings can be used for doing that. However, again, it's not really AmpScript. The syntax is kind of similar. It's just that percentage and then ending with percentage, and between there is a certain keyword or string that is used. So just quickly showing one or two examples. Just wanted to let you know this is an AmpScript, but it does, to an extent, does the same function. So if I can I request everybody to be on mute, because I can hear some background noise. Okay, so like for example, if I just put a name, okay, if I do like this in a particular email, it will pull the name of the full name of the month in which the email is sent. Again, not AmpScript, but personalization string. So that's the reason I wanted to stress on the fact, and I have put a special slide that these are also used as a part of doing personalization, but not AmpScript. This is not AmpScript, but looks a bit similar to AmpScript. But you should be aware of this thing as well, and this is another way of doing personalization. Okay, now there are certain categories of AmpScript functions. So there are, okay, for everybody's convenience, AmpScript is a group of 148 functions. Okay, so there are 148 functions in AmpScript which are regularly used, and they are divided into different categories. Like for example, somebody wants to actually do some SOAP interaction, API related integrations you want to do. There's certain functions to do that. If you want to do some functions related to data extensions, by the way, data extension is how in Salesforce Marketing Cloud we store the data. It's a table, just another table. So there are certain category of functions which we'll be looking around going forward. Then in that these categories of functions, as I told, there are 148 odd functions out there in Marketing Cloud, and the use is simple, and the idea behind learning AmpScript is if you have a small bit of scripting background, it's very easy to learn. Even though if you don't have, I'm pretty sure a lot of you would have used Excel file. In Excel files, we have those formulas, you know, equals to bracket and then let's say, or equals to sum A comma B. AmpScript logically works similar to that only, where you just write the formula, pass the input functions, or sorry, inputs parameters they call it, and then you'll get a result, desired output. That's it. You cannot create functions in AmpScript for your own purposes like other languages. So there are 148 odd functions last I heard, and you can reuse those functions, pre-built functions, to make use in the personalization string. Okay, so as Shivu is mentioning, personalization string and AmpScript are different. I'm just trying to highlight that this is another thing that can be used within Marketing Cloud, but it gives you the same function. So nowhere related, but the output helps you to do that same stuff which AmpScript is doing, and AmpScript of course can do a lot of things. So don't get confused. The idea was to let you know this is also there. Okay, so now as I was saying, 148 odd functions, you cannot create any new functions in Marketing AmpScript within Marketing Cloud. So you have to reuse those 148 odd functions to make use of it. And these are dedicatedly divided into different categories, and some of them you can see from on the screen. What we'll be doing is we'll be using couple of those categories, and start looking into how these categories, how these functions are used, and what is the output of that, with the help of this tool called MC Snippets. Okay, so now an MC Snippet is just released probably a couple of weeks, a month or two back, with the help of one of the Trailblazer community contributor, Patricio. So do go out. It is, I'm presuming it's still in early stages. Some of the stuff I'm still learning, but again, for people who are learning AmpScript, it's actually a boon. You should always go over there, and I'll just quickly copy paste the link for everybody's convenience as well, so they can go and see right now. But yes, highly recommended to go and see if you don't have an org to actually practice AmpScript and SSJS both. And SQL is upcoming, so you can learn everything without Marketing Cloud org. So that's a boon. Okay, moving on. So okay, there are two things that I wanted to clarify about this AmpScript. First is it's an interpreted language. It is flowing top down. Okay, so if you write line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, this is how it is interpreted. System goes and checks flow by flow, top to bottom. That's how it works, AmpScript. So that is one thing. And second thing is there is certain order of execution in an email. So as you know, these are different aspects of an email. It's a pre-header, HTML body, text body, subject. Okay, I'm assuming everybody is aware of all of these 4 aspects of an email. Okay, even if you are a user, nothing related to Marketing Cloud or digital marketing, but these are the aspects that you see in every email. This is how the flow takes in an AmpScript, which is it executes the pre-header first, then it comes to the HTML body, then the text body, which is a body form only, and then it finally does the subject. Okay, so the idea behind showcasing and talking about this order of execution is this is how system reads and processes the AmpScript. So you should be aware of it, so that you don't make a mistake of actually, for example, if you use some variable in pre-header, okay, and you define there, because you can define it in body, it won't work. So this order of execution is very important in order to actually do that. So that's something that I wanted to share with everybody. Okay, then we spoke about why AmpScript is used, where I gave you an example of Grammarly. Then we spoke about what is AmpScript, what are the other, by the way, there are other Marketing Cloud script proprietary languages like SSJS as well, and then this is what this is another is your GTL. Okay, so these are again a different topic of conversation in it themselves, but yeah, just to let you know, all 3 are within Marketing Cloud languages, and we are specifically talking about AmpScript today. Okay, so now we are talking about a third aspect now, how of AmpScript, where we'll be talking about the syntax, we'll be talking about some of the important functions, And if time permits, we will take some questions, some use cases and questions as well. I'm seeing thanks Amit and Shivu for actually answering those questions simultaneously. So again, guys, if you have any questions, put it on the chat. How it goes in terms of any questions that are there, you can get it clarified with the other champions and MVPs which are there on the call and knowledgeable people. Okay, so how we can write AmpScript? Okay, so there are different ways of writing AmpScript, and so for example, one is called inline, the second one is called AmpScript block, and third is called AmpScript tag. Okay, so these are different ways of writing an AmpScript code within the, let's say, email template. And again, I'm talking about email a lot of times, but remember that AmpScript also works in SMSs. It also works in landing pages. So yeah, so it is applicable for that. But since email is something that everybody is aware of, everybody talks about, so hence I'm stressing on the fact email, but it's equally applicable to your landing pages and SMS as well. So first one, inline. Inline, the way it is written is you do double percentages, opening and ending, and equals to as well, and that's where you start writing your functions. So just a quick example, I had written this thing over here. So what I'll do is I will use this, increase the zoom size. Okay, so if I see what I've done is, this is the inline format of writing AmpScript, where you do percentage, ending with percentage, and of course, percentage equals, and then same thing while closing it. And then you write that function. So in this case, I've write the function which is outputting the variable's name. So in this case, the variable is Pankaj, so it's outputting that. So that's one way of writing the notation, inline AmpScript. And there are certain use cases as well, which I'll be talking about when to use what. Then next one is AmpScript block. This would be, I would say, at least from my experience, and I've seen, one of the most used format of writing, where in which you can actually declare a lot of things. So for example, it's again starts with percentage, and then bracket opening, and the same goes with closing that. So same thing for AmpScript block, but it's a bit different, and you do a lot of logical things in that. So I'll just quickly show an example over here. So it's a simple example. If you see on my screen, what I'm doing is I'm just declaring a variable and setting a value to that variable, a value. But I'm doing that in my AmpScript block. See, this is how it is. So that's the another way of using AmpScript notation, which is AmpScript block. And there's a third way as well, wherein you can write with the way this thing is written. Okay, so it starts with script, and of course the language is AmpScript. Similarly, shows for SSJS as well, but yes, for AmpScript as well, you use this notation to work on it. Okay, what else? Okay, so again, as I said, inline, block, and tag, which is used when. So there is a simple understanding, and again, by no means it's a general guidelines. By no means nobody is saying not to use that, but in simple sense, it's the guidelines of what to do. So, and when to use which one. So for inline, it is if you want to have a simple output. Okay, very simple, just like example, in my case, a name, then you should actually use that inline AmpScript. When do you use blocks? When you have more complex code with multiple steps or conditions, basically more logic. If you want to declare multiple variables, you have to have some logics, choose that. Okay, and then AmpScript tag. Of course, AmpScript tag and blocks, in some cases, it does match, but in a lot of cases, AmpScript tag is used for building more complex logics. And in case if you are familiar with other scripting language like JavaScript, it helps you a lot. So if you see, it looks like a JavaScript similarly to this SSJS format. So if you are familiar with that, you might want to use this tag as well because of your existing experience. Yeah. Yeah, as I said, in AmpScript, I mostly use AmpScript block. It serves my purpose. I can certainly use AmpScript tag as well. Okay, so anything as okay, yeah, so that's correct. Case sensitive, yes, correct. So that is another thing. It's not case sensitive. Thanks for adding. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, okay, I'll take a quick pause over here and check if there is any questions. You can put it across. Any doubts till now we have, because what we are going to do now is we are getting into a mode of specifics of AmpScript in terms of the syntax which is used, and then probably very soon we'll be jumping into using the different functions and seeing how it is outputting. So anything that you want to check, you can put it in the chat. I'll take a couple of minutes to have a look. Open for looking for answers, or if everything is answered, we can move on.
Yeah, it's everything is answered, Pankaj, so we can move ahead with the session.
Sure, Amit. Thanks for that. Okay, so now again, diving deep into how of AmpScript. So these are, as you said, as we spoke about briefly, these are how you are actually doing that in terms of let's say starting an endpoint, as they say. Uh, quickly, okay. So okay, so like for example, if you have some amount of knowledge of the program, okay, so these things would be very cakewalk for you in terms of this is how it is used in every language. But if you don't have, just it will take a bit more time for you to understand, because these are pretty common across all languages, wherein like for example, how the variables are set, how they are declared, how we are using conditionals, operators and all, which is pretty common across all the languages. And same goes with AmpScript. So like over here, we spoke about first and second point, in fact third as well. Then if you want to define a literal term, okay, then you use these colons, as I have used over here in my case. I mean, I'm actually declaring the variable and setting a value against it. Again, in order, you can use parenthesis if you want to put any grouping, an order in that grouping, so you can use parenthesis. And then this is if you're looking some value in that, then you are basically using this kind of functions. So see, this is the function, that last one I have used. Okay, so v in the bracket and then variable. So this is the function that I've used in my previous example, where i'm I'm outputting the value of this name variable, which is set earlier. So these are some of the inbuilt functions, the way or the mechanics and nuts and bolts of AmpScript work, and we'll look for some others as well. So where is, this is the way you define a particular variable, okay, or placeholder. And then set is the keyword that you use to actually assign some value to that particular placeholder or variable. You can use these values, colons, to actually set values against it, okay, literal values or values. And then again, inline AmpScript is used to return a value. Okay, okay, moving on, some other aspect of AmpScript, which is about comparison operators, join operators, and conditionals. So these are again, and by way no means I'm expecting you to learn all this. Okay, this will only happen the more you do that, you'll learn it. So nobody's expecting you to learn or by heart. Just understand the logic behind it, understand what it is used for, and I'll be providing the resources at the end of this PPT as well, so you can go back and learn at your own pace. And of course, everybody knows Trailhead is the first place to start, but Trailhead might not be a very good companion in the long run. So there are other resources as well, which I'll be showcasing in that. Okay, so now comparison operators. Again, double equals to sign stands for equal to, not equal to, and then greater than equal to or less than equal to, which is again across languages, this is kind of a general notation, but certainly this is how it is used over here. Then you can use join operators as well, which is and or. And means you want to make sure that A and B conditions are true, or means either A or B, either one of is true, then you can move on. And then we have conditional operators all as well, like for example, if, else if, and if. We'll have a look at that. moving forward in terms of examples. Okay, so now till now what we had only seen about your AmpScript functions, we heard about it. Now what we are going to do is, these are certain functions, a category of functions which we'll be talking about, and what I'll be doing is I'll be using those functions into the MC snippet tool and showcasing you what the output would be. Okay, so first we'll start with date function, then we'll be talking about some miscellaneous functions, then we'll be talking about some data extensions related functions. We'll look into that, each one of them going forward into the MC snippet tool. And just one more thing that popped up in my mind, this MC snippet tool is only created for learning purposes. Don't enter any data which is sensitive in nature. Don't do that. This is only for learning purposes. So make sure, since it is on Heroku, it is exposed, so anybody can use it. So it is open for learning, but for learning purposes, don't use it for sensitive data. Second thing, a real email doesn't look like this. Okay, a real email coding also involves AmpScript. It requires in some cases personalization string. It requires HTML, CSS, absolutely. It could be SSJS as well. So it's pretty much complex, the email template. Over here, what the agenda of this conversation is to teach you AmpScript. So I'm only focusing on that. So email is a different thing as altogether. Within that email, we are using AmpScript to do certain logical things. So that's what the tool helps you. By no way this tool means that this is how emails should look like. Emails are much more, it's a different art actually. As a matter of fact, it's an art to create a beautiful email. Okay, so and within that email, AmpScript serves as a logical thing to fetch data, show data, display data based on certain conditions. So we are only looking at that small segment of thing, which is about logical calculation of things, fetching of things, putting of things, or some of the cases it could be hidden from the user side. So that's the use of this MC snippet. And as I said, it's in a beta form. So it's just been released. There might be things here and there, but for somebody who has no access to app, this is a boon. Let me say that again, this is a boon for somebody who doesn't have any access to Marketing Cloud. Assuming there are a lot of people who are there in this call, out of 57, a lot of people won't be having access to Marketing Cloud. So this is one of the ways of learning a very important skill in Marketing Cloud. So if you are looking for a job or an entry-level job or want to enter Salesforce Marketing Cloud ecosystem, this can help you a lot, because till now it was not there. So you only had theoretical knowledge of AmpScript or SSJS, but with the help of this tool, you can do hands-on and solidify your knowledge and actually showcase that in your interviews. So it's very important tool, and do use that to your benefit. Okay, so coming back to the PPT, yeah. So what we'll do is, going forward, we'll use some of the functions, other different categories, and showcase it to you how these functions are used and what are they outputting. Okay, so that's the difference between these functions that I'm talking about. And for everybody's convenience, the system time for Marketing Cloud is CST time zone. Okay, so if you put anything in Salesforce Marketing Cloud with displays the system time, it will come in CST time zone. FYI, this is everybody should be aware of that. This is okay. Okay, fine. So let me move on and talk about some certain snippets. So what I'll do is I'll delete this, and this is a simple function again, which I'll delete. Okay. So this is a code which basically what it does is, again, I'm just trying to show you some date functions over here. So as we spoke about, these are some date functions, category of functions. I'm just trying to showcase, but again, just quickly go through that. Now one give you system date. Format gives you format, as the name suggests. These will give you formatting of the dates, wherein you can format the dates. And again, dates are, by experience tell you, dates are very in any language complex in nature in terms of how do you display dates and all those functions. So be careful with that date functions, but this is about formatting the date. And again, other form of date formatting where we can have forms in different format. We'll see that. This functions helps you to add a date. So for example, today's date is, let's say, 5th of March. You can add, let's say, 30 dates. It becomes another 30th day after that. And then days difference, you can get out some difference of dates. Again, these functions might not look useful to you in their own way, but when used in a different construct, in a logical way to output us for a use case, these are very useful. So for now, what we'll start with is start using these functions in their own small context. And then if time permits, if there are some use cases, we can certainly see how it can be used in a broader use case. Okay. So this is about this system local date. So let me save and run. So okay, before that, let me quickly talk about this tool. So how to use that. So okay, so this tool is called MC Snippet. This is editor. This is the editor over here. So you can code your SSJS or AmpScript code over here on the left hand side, and on the right hand side, once you click save and run, it will display you the output. And if there is an error, okay, then probably let's do this and again save and run. It will showcase the error as well. Okay, if it is not correct, so it will validate as well as show you the error. So this is how this tool works. And there's an interesting part below that, which is about adding data extensions and values to that. So if you see on the bottom side, this is where this is by default the data extension name it takes. If you refresh it, it takes some other name. And then what you can do is you can define that data extension over here. If you see, I have defined and added one value over here. This is something again will be useful once we do the operations related to data extensions. But for now, it's not useful for the initial set of AmpScript functions that we'll be looking into. But again, you can use that for your data extension related operations, which we'll be looking into future further down this presentations. Okay, so now what I've done is I've set a variable. If you see, and just think about it logically. Don't go around the syntax. Okay, syntax you can learn as a matter of fact. A lot of experienced people have actually the way to do it. They look up the syntax and develop the logic. So what we are doing is we are displaying the date functions over here as a part of this example. And what I'm doing is I've got a variable with whom I'm actually giving you a now date. It's now date is a system date, correct? Right now, what is the correct time? So right now, if it is example 11:47 IST, 11:44 IST, this is what will store, but of course in the CST format, remember? And the local time for the user is this one. See? Okay, so right now it is still picking the CST format, but if it works, if you put it across in your marketing cloud org, where you have set your user as let's say IST time zone, it will pick that up and it will give you that functions. But again, just a use of the system date to local date function in AmpScript. Okay, what else? Okay, I'll talk about another one as well. So it takes some time, but again, it gives you that CST time. So right now it would be 5th of March, 12:15 p.m. CST. So it gives you this now function gives you that CST time format, system time. And the previous function was to change it to a user locale. But in my case, since this is a tool, if it was in marketing cloud, it would have given me IST time or whatever time I had set as a part of that user. Yeah. Keep on posting your questions if you have right now. Yeah. Okay, so let me just quickly introduce you to another add function that we saw. So what I'm doing is basically I'm adding a number to a particular date, which is today's date. So if you see, what I've done is simply I've declared two variables, date and expiration date. What I've done is I've added the value of now, which is today's date and time. This is on the right hand side, you can see, into this date variable. Okay, and now what I'm doing is I am logically adding 30 days to this date and formatting it in a particular format. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm just displaying that with the help of this function. inline AmpScript, and this is the AmpScript block where I'm doing all of the declaration, adding, and all those things, and I'm displaying it with this inline function. That's a simple operation that I'm doing, and it will add 30 days to this current date. Okay, so let's say 4th of April. Today is 5th, yes, for 30 days. So basically, the use cases, if you want in this particular example, it says expires on, because, for example, if you have an offer that you want to send email to a customer saying that your offer starts from today, but it's valid for next 30 days. So it gives you 4th of April. So your offer will expire on 4th of April. That's the particular use case that this particular function is talking about, date add. So it adds 30 days to the current date. Date is whatever you declare. In my case, it's today's date. Yeah, makes sense. I hope you are catching it. And if not, let me know with the chat. And if we get some time, we'll come back to those. So this is one set of category of functions that we spoke about, date functions. Again, as I said, these are tricky in nature. Just be careful of that. That's what my experience has been. Date functions, a bit tricky in nature. Okay, moving on to next category of functions. So next category of functions are miscellaneous functions. Okay, miscellaneous functions, again, these are very, very small functions. Like, for example, you want to get a length of a particular string. You want to extract a particular string, a substring out of it. Very small functions, but used in a particular use case, not in their, if you use them in objectivity, in this, let's say, use a substring, it won't make much sense. But if you use in a particular use case, these are very useful functions. So hence miscellaneous functions. So for example, if I'm trimming white spaces, I can use this. If I want to replace, I can replace this this value with this value. Length, I can get substring, as the name suggests. And as I said, these are very, very simple functions, the way we used in Excel. If I'm presuming you are, if not used, you're aware of Excel functions. So you have this function, you pass the parameters, and that's it. Get the result. Simple as it is. There's no complexity at this stage till now. Okay, so let me show you some functions from miscellaneous. What I've done is, if you see on the left hand side, I have used a trim function, and I have passed a string which is hobby, and it has got left and right. There are some white spaces which I've removed with the help of this trim functions. So this can be used to clear a string and present it to the customer in a way that it needs to be. So your data is not good or clean. Okay, so that's one thing. Then another thing is about length. We wanted to see the password, so length function. So let me use that and showcase how it can be used. Okay, so now if you see what I've simply done is, in this AmpScript, I'm just creating a password variable. I'm adding a value to that, in this case password, and I'm asking it to publish me the length of this. Simple. So length is 8 characters. Yeah, so that's simple use of it. But again, it could be used in a use case where it says that if you're somebody setting up a password, and you want to tell them that, okay, your last password that you've entered just now has got only 6 characters. You can calculate with the help of this, and then tell them, no, it has to, as a standard best practice in this organization, the password length should be of 8 characters, 10 characters, whatever the case may be. So we can use this in that particular use case. Okay, and this, on the similar lines, I'll use the substring function as well to showcase substring is a part of that string. If you want to calculate, so there's what it's doing is, this is a string, and I'm asking it to actually give me a substring starting from 7 and next 4 characters. So in this case, the starting would be from 7, and the next 4 characters are 7890. Okay, so that's the use of substring. Again, simple functions, not very complex or looks useful in their own objective terms, but certainly very useful if you start applying them in enterprise level use cases. As I gave an example of passwords, as I gave an example of cleaning up the data. In case the data is not very clean, you can trim it and then showcase it to the customer on the emails. So that gives you a good experience. Yeah. Okay. So now moving on, some of the examples I showed. Then third one is maths function. Again, these math functions are again very useful in the enterprise context, but again, objectivity, if you see, these are simple additions. It adds the number, it will give you 30, for example, it will subtract, it will multiply, it will divide, it gives you all those values. But again, it gives, this can be useful, for example, if you want to send an invoice for the purchase that has been done, and in that invoice, for example, you have purchased three products, product 1, 2, and 3. You need to do a total amount of how much is the total price that customer has paid. So for all, you can give that structure in a tabular format, and price, product 1 price 1, product 2 price 2, product 3 price 3, and at the end of the table you do a sum of it. So basically price 1 price 2 price 3, and you can use these functions in order to display that data. So that could be one of the use cases, enterprise level use cases for using those functions. And quickly I'll just take you to one or two functions so that I can show you this is how it is used. And guys, I cannot stress on the fact that this tool is very useful. Make use of it as much as possible. Okay, so simple. Okay, what I've done is in this block, I've declared a variable. What I've done is I've used the add function, passed to literal values, stored in this placeholder called sum, and displayed that value, which is 42 in this case. Is it correct? 19 plus 23 is 42, correct? Yeah. Any doubts on that? Okay, fine. Moving on. Again, I would thanks everybody for I just had a look at the brief movement. I looked at a chat and I'm really thrilled and excited that there's a long conversation which is going. And thanks everybody involved in that, asking and answering questions. Yeah, great. So now what is the next category of functions that I wanted to talk about? Okay, so next is for loop. Okay, so for loop, just like in any other language, it is heavily used to do multiple things. Okay, multiple process, rather not multiple things, multiple process based on different increments. Okay, so in this case as well, for example, this is how it the syntax looks. Okay, so for example, it starts from 1 and let's say it goes till 10. I'm just taking an example 10, and you keep on doing it with do keyword, and then you have you do your function, your code goes over here, and then you close it with end if, and then next it'll again go back recursing. So it will keep on doing till the time you want it to do. In this case, let's say it is 10 times, for example. So we'll have a look at that composite functions just after some time. Now I've got two I wouldn't say most used, but at least I have used them a lot, category of functions in terms of when you talk about data extensions. Okay, so data extensions, for everybody's convenience, if you're not aware of, this is how it's a way that Marketing Cloud stores the data within themselves. So just look data extensions as tables within Marketing Cloud. Okay, and these tables of course have columns, rows, this just like an Excel sheet. Yeah, so just envisage them, if you haven't worked on it, envisage them in an Excel sheet where you have those rows and columns. That is a data extension for you. For one single sheet, for example, can be talked about as a data extension, usually speaking. So now there are two category of functions which are primarily used a lot in that category of functions, data extensions. So what could be a use case of AmpScript? So for example, data category. So when I talk about AmpScript, data extensions category. So okay, anybody can talk about it, because I've been talking about for last 50 minutes. I want to take a pause, probably a glass of water, but anybody can talk about it. What is lookup and lookup rows functions that could be used for? Some thoughts? And there are no wrong answers. Wrong answers. Can you add to that? Anybody? Yes.
Generally, we use a lookup to retrieve data from the single row. And when we want to retrieve data from the lot of rows, then we use lookup rows.
Correct, but not necessarily in, okay, so correct. And what the follow-up question would be, since I didn't get your name, sorry. Antim. So okay, the follow-up question is which should be used because in a lot of data extensions, you are not, because data extensions is millions of records. It's not 5-10 records, correct? So you don't know what could be the output. It could be one, it could be more than one, correct? So what is the, in that scenario, what could be the best method to use if you want to extract that? Lookup or lookup rows, either one of them, which one? Hello, am I audible, or somebody else went on mute?
Audible.
Fine. Okay, so let me answer that. Thanks Lashmi Raja for adding on to that. Absolutely. So lookup, as the name, so see, its literal meaning is lookup. Go and look up in a particular data extension and get me the fields that I want. Okay, that's the simple concept of lookup. And lookup rows is you get a data set. In lookup you get a row. In lookup rows you get a data set. When I say data set, it's basically, let's say 10 records. Okay, and in lookup you will get only one record. Okay, now the problem arises is, for example, if you say in a data extension there are millions of records, which is a very common use case in Marketing Cloud, where you have millions of records in one single data extension. So you don't know whether this lookup row, if you give a condition to lookup rows, and it will give you one row or more than one row. You don't know. And Marketing Cloud, this function is not very consistent in terms of how many, which row it will give you. So if there are, let's say 10 rows and use lookup functions, it'll give you first one or second or third or fourth, which one we don't know. So it might happen that first time you use that function, it'll give you row number 1, again row number 3. So that's something to be taken care of while looking up using lookup row. So in that case, what an advantage lookup rows will give you is, it'll give you a data set. So for example, your query retrieved 10 records. It'll give you all 10 records. Now it's up to you to traverse all those 10 records with the help of for loop, and then do your functions, whatever function you want to do, whatever logic or use case that you have. Okay. So yeah, as Shibu has rightly mentioned, probably lookup rows more than one row. So it's a data set, that's we call it. It's a combination of rows it will give you. Lookup one single. Okay, and you are, in a lot of cases, you're not sure what it will give you. If you've got 10 records, matching records, will it give you first one, third one, fifth one, latest one? No, nobody knows. It's not very consistent, I would say. So that's the primary difference between lookup and lookup rows. And for simplicity, this is the syntax of lookup rows and lookup on the second one, code sample. So basically over here, if you see, I'll just quickly talk about it. So if you see lookup, what it says is, in this syntax, go to loyalty level D. This is the name of data extension, loyalty level D. Okay, give me loyalty level column value, where member ID is equal to @member. So whatever the variable value is. So basically, it's saying go to this data extension. Okay, get me this column where member ID is equal to this one. That's the simple answer or explanation for this AmpScript lookup function. Think it from that perspective. Okay. Whereas if you go into lookup rows, okay, what it will do is it will give you a data set, as I spoke about. So as per this, what will happen is lookup rows go into this flight info D, okay, and then give me all the flights with seat is equal to seat number. Okay, so it will give you a full data set of values. If it is 1, it will give you 1. If it is more than 1, it will give you more than 1, whatever the case may be. But that's that recommended one. Also, there is one of the other things as well where wish to use as a practice. This is purely in terms of system resources. As everybody knows, Salesforce Marketing Cloud is multi-tenant architecture, where you need to be very specific in terms of queries that you're doing, because it's using the system's power, which is shared by other people, other customers. So from that perspective, lookup rows would be a better idea to do that. If you have multiple lookup functions used across the your code in AmpScript. So basically, if you are calling, let's say, lookup functions 4 times in your whole code, it's better to actually use lookup rows, get the value, store it, and then reuse it every time, instead of going and hitting the data extension, because it's using computing power, which is again, it's very dearth in nature. So optimizing it helps you that. Okay. Okay, again, simple example, as I said, NTO products. By the way, is everybody is aware of NTO website? Which is that company? This is a trivia question. What is an NTO? Northern Trailblazer Outfit. It's the full form. Is everybody aware of this company? Give me a yes or no. Yes, no, not sure.
Everyone.
Everyone, I'm presuming, would be aware of NTO. Okay, just a trivia question. NTO is a fictitious company created by Salesforce, which they use it in a lot of places. So it's a fictitious company. It's not a real company. So now, so what, as an example, what I'm saying is go to NTA products. Okay, get me the name from where price is equal to this value. That's how you should read it. Second one, lookup rows. Go to NTA products as a data extension and give me the name and leave where it is leave wireless earbuds. Basically, give me the data set. So we'll look into the examples and see how it works. Okay. Okay. So let me jump on to MC snippet, clear that, use now DLOOKUP function. Okay. Okay. So what I've done is see, if you see, these are simple two variables I have declared within this block. Okay, two variables I have declared, and again, this might not 100% times work, but fine. This is again a function that I have used. Let's look at this part, lookup. Okay, so customer D new. I have to make some changes in this context, then only I'll be able to do that. For now, let me just make some changes. Give me a moment. So customer lookup. So this is as per this one, the data extension name which is there, which is created by this tool automatically. Okay, so let's save it and run. Okay, so now it's working fine. So I'll just traverse back and explain you what I have done. So basically, as I said, with the help of this tool, you can create a data extension. Okay, so this is the definition of that data extension, schema rather, I would say, and you can add fields. Okay, so I won't do it, otherwise it will refresh everything. But yeah, you can add. You see, this is one column which has been added. So this data extension, in this case, this name has got one column over here, and which has got the name is contact key, and I have added that value, in this case 2354. Yeah, that I have added. And what I've done is now I'm using a lookup function, and what I'm saying is go to this data extension. Okay, it has again refreshed, so let me go back and add this. So it says go to this data extension which is defined below, get me the contact key, where in this case contact key is, so I'm just simplifying a bit because to simplify things. So what I'm saying is where contact key is equal to 2354, give me the contact key value. That's what I'm doing by in this data extension and publish it over here. That's what it is giving me, 2354, which is the value over here. So again, an example of lookup functions wherein it gives me one data, one row, one data basically of from the intended data extension and against the certain conditions. In this case, the condition is contact key is equal to 2354 in my case. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So that being said, that was about lookup function only. Next one is about lookup rows. Okay. So let me go back to lookup rows. Okay, so now let me just increase the size of the editor. Okay, So what I'm doing right now is this is this you will learn two things in this example. One is for loop, and another is lookup rows. Okay. So now, for example, what I'm doing is lookup rows is there, and this is a for loop. Okay, logic for for loop, and this is the lookup rows. So what I'm telling is, and this is an example from a previous case, so probably not technically very right, but yes, logically the idea was to explain you how it is used. So what I'm doing is I'm certainly declaring some variables over here in the first place, and I'm setting value in one of them. And what I'm saying is, with the help of this lookup rows, go to this data extension and get me all the data set for which city is equal to this variable city. In this case, let's say Dhaka. Okay, so give me the row set or all the rows in this customer data extension for which the city is equal to Dhaka in this case. Yeah, and let's say we get 10 rows, for example, from that. If we get 10 rows from that data set, that is stored in rows. Okay, now, so now I've got 10 rows in my memory in this placeholder or variable called rows. Now what I need to do is I need to go into each row and then extract that value. Okay, and how we can do it? It can be done with the help of if function, sorry, for loop. Okay, and how do I do that? We briefly saw that function in one of those PPTs. So I'm presuming you can relate to it to an extent, but certainly I'll explain it again. So what I'm doing is I'm first taking a count. How many row set is there? Okay, let's say it is 10 in our example. If the row set is greater than 0, I want to double check whether I have extracted any data or not. This is good practice, just to make sure that whether you have fetched any data or not. Otherwise, it might throw some error. So just double check whether you have got some data or not. So that's what we are doing, double checking. Now, this is the important logic which is over here. So what we are saying is we are starting a counter, okay, from 1 to row count. Let's say row count in our case was 10 and do. And then again, internally, we are declaring some variables and extracting those values in each recursion. So let's say if I value is 1, then what I'll do is with the help of this row function, I'll extract the first row. So in the rows, I have got 10, I is equal to 1 in this case, first time if we are running, and I got the first row. Okay, so first row, and then in next 3 lines, what I'm doing is I'm extracting different columns from that row. So if you see, let's say that data set had customer name, email, and age example. So I'm extracting customer name, email, and age with the help of field function. Okay, so I'm going into that row, first row, and give me the customer name. The customer name I'm storing over here. Similarly for email and age. Okay, and this happens till the time it runs 10 times in our case because it is 10 rows. So it gives me 10 times the values, or it rather outputs 10 times, which outputting over here, by the way. It gives me the value 10 times in a row. Okay, so that's how this row count works. Just give me a moment. I have to attend somebody at the door. Just I'll take a
lost, by the way.
yeah. I just got disconnected. So yeah.
Pankaj, are you speaking? As I think we cannot hear you.
Audible. Test mic 1 2 3.
Yes, now we can see you. Sorry, hear you.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry. I thanks for hanging on because I've got some construction work going on the weekend and everything is on haywire in terms of network. So thanks for hanging on. So yeah, so this is the important thing I want to talk about in terms row lookup rows, where what we it is used in conjunction with the for loops, and it traverses across the data set and gives you all the row sets. Now, unfortunately, the thing is that I cannot show you how it runs because this particular tool doesn't let me add